The all is mind, the mind is all, and the universe is mental. This is the principle of mentality in Hermeticism. In the double-slit experiment, we see that consciousness is a type of energy because it can impact the outcome of an experiment. Actually, I'm just going to tell you how the double-slit experiment works. You have a piece of paper, and it's got two slits in it, and you travel a light wave through these two slits, and if there's no conscious observer, they will land on the other wall in the shape of the slits. But if there is a conscious observer, they will splay out into a whole wave called the Broglie wave pattern, or the Broglie wave function. Basically, conscious observation prevents the Broglie wave function from happening because when a conscious observer is actually watching the experiment, the simulation loads the event. So instead of it just being regular code, being that code comes from higher dimensions, so the physical matter is going to want to take a higher dimensional state of being, which is why it actually splayed out into the Broglie wave pattern. But also consciousness is the driving force of energy within the universe itself. From consciousness comes thoughts, collections of code that fit together to create an event. That's what a thought is. When a thought forms within the source code of the universe, it is created. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. In the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was God. That was the thought. The Word was God. In the beginning there was the Word. That's original thought. Okay, in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was God. Here's an interesting statistic. If we ever simulate a universe within this universe, then within that universe, they're going to be able to simulate another universe, and within that universe, etc. It goes on and on and on and on and on. But basically, if we ever simulate just one universe, the probability that we are in a simulated universe right now increases exponentially, because the amount of simulated universes that will exist at some point in time increases infinitely. Trigger warning. I'm about to share some beliefs, opinions, and pieces of knowledge that come from personal experience and not necessarily scientific articles or research. Is there actually a real universe, and are the rest of the universes computed simulations from that original simulated universe? No. The actual circumstance is that in the beginning, there was the Word, and the Word was God. Now, in the beginning, there was the Word. Now, what was the Word? The Word was the thought. Now, where did the thought come from? In the beginning. The beginning is where it came from. Now, how is the beginning a place? It's just where the story starts. It's just the beginning of the sequence of events, right? But it's actually not just the sequence of events, it's the sequence of creation. In the beginning, there was the Word. The beginning is the place where everything else fractalates out from. It's the highest dimension, it's the start code, it's where everything else falls into being. From higher dimensions is created lower dimensions, and as in heaven, so on earth. And the Word was God. So that original thought is now God. God sends himself into himself, becoming separate from himself within himself to experience itself. I said him, whatever. The universe has created the illusion of separateness to learn about itself and experience itself as an infinity. Also within this, since the universe is always experiencing itself as itself, every time one of us, which are God, have a thought, have an experience, have a sight, a seeing, whatever, or any time we make a decision, create a delta event, where the events and circumstances that can only compute in such a small fraction of a way, third dimensionally, when they can compute in a single form in the 9th dimension or the 11th dimension, they're going to form a different universe, because they have to form a bunch of different universes in order to actually cover the full spectrum of fractalation that's happening within this source code. That's what the multiverse is. It's a bunch of different versions of 3D, because 3D has to compensate for the much greater complexity level of 11D, since there's 11 dimensions in string theory. But now let's talk about a good way to visualize what God actually is, because when I learned about God after the fact of being lied to about God, like when I actually learned about God in the spiritual sense, when you're learning in the spiritual sense, I learned that God is an octopus. And at the head of this octopus is this infinitely complex and infinitely large system of intelligence that ties everything together. This is the intersection point of every probability, every reality, and every event that's ever happened at any point in time. This is the singularity, in other words. This is the point before the Big Bang, in the beginning. That's the head of the octopus. And then it's got an infinite amount of arms instead of just 8. It's got an infinite amount of arms, and at the bottom of each of these arms is a universe. And inside of each of these universes is, trillions and billions of living creatures. And each of these living creatures is actually this octopus itself experiencing itself as a universe. That's what God is, and that's what we are. We are God. God is an octopus. That's how the system operates. Now, since we're just God experiencing itself as something separate, there's no reason to now believe that we actually are separate, because now we know better. We're even less separate than we originally thought we were, because this consciousness energy flows. It doesn't sit in one person and experience everything at a single point. It flows through you like a pipe, okay? So it's like you're a pipe, consciousness is flowing through you, and kind of like a reel on a piece of tape, you're taking images and putting that image onto the consciousness as it flows through you like a reel of tape. But that doesn't mean that you alone are the observer of that event. What I mean is that if your consciousness, if those memories and recollections are here, and they're flowing through you, and you're here, the idea of you is here, your ego, then you're going to flow through that ego. You don't have to exist as simply those values. That consciousness flows to pick up more images on more reels of tape. Well, you flow to a different universe. Now, since it wants to go to the most probable universe, it wants to go to the closest one within, spatial probability, it's going to be really similar to the universe that you're in right now. Actually, it's going to be super similar. So maybe you'll wake up and you'll just notice, hey, that's on the other side of my room now. Hey, I got different color wall paint. Hey, this is a different kind of car than I used to have. You notice small changes, okay? And they get smaller than that. They're much smaller than that. They can happen in a smaller way, but those are pretty good examples. Eventually, through these tiny little changes, you'll end up in a dissimilar universe, but not even remember this other universe that you were in. Because you go to sleep, your consciousness flows over, you wake up in this other universe with different memories. You have a different memory now that you're in this different universe, because it's a... So basically, as I keep explaining this, as I keep explaining the way that consciousness flows through this universe, and the way that this universe arranges itself, the explanation will get more and more complex, okay? Until you're not able to understand it. So pretty much, that is the 3D simplified version of how this universe works, as explained to me by people in the 5th dimension. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like, subscribe, comment, share, hit the bell notification icon. Goodbye.